Hey, what's going on, guys? Pete here with mixbetternow.com, and I just wanted to do a quick little intro in regards to this video. Now, I'm super stoked. I have my buddy on here, Stephen Kelly of understandingaudio.com, who has been kind enough to put together a video for us on how to start our mixes, specifically using reference tracks. Now, in my opinion, Stephen is a bit of an expert on this subject, so I'm going to happily turn the floor over to him right now. But just so you know, after you're done watching or while you are watching, you can go click in the description box at any time and you can go check out his awesome website, his YouTube channel, and make sure you take advantage of the free ebook that he has all about using reference tracks when you mix. It's awesome. So without further ado, here is my good friend Stephen Kelly from Understanding Audio.
Hey, how's it going? Stephen here from understandingaudio.com, taking over from my good friend Pete of mixbetternow.com. Pete's asked me to come in and take over from him today to show you something that's going to make a huge difference to your mixing. It's one of those things that's going to help you improve no matter what level you're at or what gear you're using, because the most important part of all this is using your ears and your taste. So I want to start by getting you to think about how you start your mixes. Now, I'm not talking about editing or session prep. I'm talking about what you do after that point, how you actually start mixing. In the session I've got open here, I have everything ordered from the most important elements at the top all the way down to the bottom. You'll notice that I've got my references right up at the top. Then I've got the client's rough mix, another direct reference, my submix, stereo bus, various buses, effects, and all the way down through all of the elements in the mix. Now, what I've said about the order of importance of my tracks in the session is in itself very important, because you'll see right up at the top here, I have my references. To me, they're the most important part of any session. This, in fact, is a reference set that I've put together, and I play at the start of any session, any mix that I'm doing, before I even touch a fader, pan pot, or plugin. There are so many reasons why I do this, but I'm going to get into that a little bit later. For now, I just want to explain what this is. This track up top is 20 different segments from 20 different songs cross-faded between each other, so that I have a flavor of all the various different genres that I mix in, so that I can reference them in terms of the high end, the low end, or the synth level, vocal level. All of these things, they're there, they're right in my session, and I don't have to go pulling references in from somewhere else and having to really think about what I'm doing. They're right there, and I can play them at any moment during my session. Just below my reference set is the rough mix from the client. It's really important to have this in your session to know exactly what your client intended for the mix, what they want you to do, and also so you can beat the sonic quality of this mix. Below that, I have the reference for this song. This is a particular reference that has been given to me by the client for this track. Now let's go back to your mixes. First of all, do you use reference mixes? If you do, great. But I want to highlight how some people actually really misuse them, or at least don't use them to their full potential. Generally, what a lot of mixers will do is create a stereo audio track in their session and drag in some form of reference mix. That's pretty much all they'll do, and they'll play that maybe at the start of their mixing session and near the end to make sure that their mix is in the same ballpark. There are a lot more problems with referencing that way than people realize, and in my opinion, that's actually really detrimental and really bad for your mixing. Another thing that people do is to go onto Spotify or YouTube and pick a track on there as their reference and measure their own mix against this to see if they're in the right ballpark. Like I mentioned earlier, I think it's great that people do any sort of referencing at all, but there's a couple of issues with this second approach of using YouTube or Spotify, similar to just dragging in a track into your session and not doing anything else with that. The first is with referencing in a different program. You have to switch out of your DAW into Spotify or a web browser to open YouTube. And if you don't have the inbuilt limiter and normalization in Spotify, YouTube, or iTunes Radio turned off, then you're not getting anywhere near an accurate representation of what that track sounds like on its own in comparison to other mixes and in comparison to your mix. So if you've pulled a track into your session like the one I have here, I think that's a great start. But like I mentioned earlier, you want to avoid the pitfalls of using references in the wrong way and ruining your mix. If I move over to the audio volume indicator here, you'll see that my fader is at -10.2, and there's a very specific reason for that. Let me put this back to 0 for now. I also want to pull in a stereo WAV of my bounced mix. Now, when you're going through this process, you'll be comparing the reference mix to all of the summed multi-track elements that you see here down below in your mix. But for convenience, I'm just going to show you on a stereo bounced WAV. So let's listen to my mix and the reference mix, which is in a somewhat similar style. First you'll hear my mix, and then I'll flip over to the reference track and then back and forth between the two. The first problem that you might have noticed is that I'm comparing my unmastered track against a master track. This is so important, and it's why I had the volume level of my fader on the reference track at -10.2 previously. Our ears are always going to perceive louder as better, so it's going to be really hard to accurately compare your mix against the reference, and it might even affect the confidence you have in your approach. That's why I mentioned earlier that using reference mixes the wrong way can really damage your mixing. So the best way to get the most accurate comparison is to loudness match the reference track to your mix. You can do that by simply pulling down the fader of the reference mix so that the two mixes are loudness matched. But what I really like to do, and what I recommend you do, is use a loudness meter for this purpose. That way you know that there's absolutely no question that the two tracks are loudness matched together. Let me put the fader on my reference mix back to that -10.2 level, and we'll have another listen. Notice that now we're in a much better position to make accurate comparisons between those two mixes in terms of sonic quality, EQ, compression, effects, reverb, delays, saturation. All these things you can now actually think about on a level playing field. Now, the second really big issue that I see with how people use reference mixes is that they'll only use one track, and that's then going to be the benchmark for how their mix should sound. Again, while I think it's great that people reference at all, I like to take things a step further and have this entire reference set that I mentioned earlier at the top of every mix. This is something that you only have to put together once and then import it into every new session, or just have it as part of your mix template. You'll see a lot of top engineers doing this, and it's something that I've been doing for years now. I've excerpts from all of my references right here on top for all the specific reasons. Some of them I mentioned earlier, like how my low end should sound, how present my vocal is, or how loud the snare drum should be in the mix. I also like having a reference from a wide range of styles, because there's no right or wrong way to craft a mix, and borrowing from other genres can really help, especially if you're getting stuck. The most important part of all this is that this is my taste, and you'll probably argue with it, and that's great. That's what music is all about. This is all about defining your own taste as a mixer and referring back to the mixes that you think are really great and are going to help make your mixes better. You'll notice that within this reference set, there's a lot of clip gain moves going on. That's what all these lines are all about, and these numbers down the bottom, they are clip gain adjustments to the excerpts. That's done on purpose so that all of these excerpts are loudness matched to each other. That's also the second time that I've mentioned loudness matching in this video, and that's because I feel it is just so important when it comes to comparing your mix against reference mixes. There's really so much more that I could cover in this today, but we all have limited attention spans, and I really want to give Pete's channel back to him so he can continue blowing your mind with all these great tutorials and great mixing tips. But I definitely want you to have all the information that I could keep talking about for days in this video at your disposal. In fact, I've already put it together for you as a free gift from myself and Pete as a thank you for watching this video. I've put together a free PDF guide for you that goes through all of the things that I mentioned earlier, like putting a reference set together, loudness matching your reference set, loudness matching it with a meter. It's all included in the guide, along with free video links with step-by-step instructions for all you visual learners. So to grab the guide, go to getpromixes.com and download it for free. It's really easy to read, and all of my students at understandingaudio.com are getting great results from taking the action steps towards getting their mixes sounding like the pros, and you can too today. Don't miss out on all the valuable stuff that they're learning for free, and pick up the guide at getpromixes.com. Before I go, I want to thank you for watching this video, and I want to thank Pete for letting me come here and chat with you today. If you liked what I had to say, show Pete some love for all the hard work that he puts into Mix Better Now and all the free information that he gives away by liking this video and subscribing to Mix Better Now. Oh, and don't forget to go over to mixbetternow.com to grab your free audio swag bag. If you're feeling super generous and you want to help other people out, leave a comment below about how you use reference mixes, and I'll catch you on another video very soon.